I was just wondering if you could help me clear up my confusion from First John chapter 1, like 8, 9, and 10.
Yep.
Just sort of the dichotomy between those statements.
If we say we're without sin, we make him a liar. But if we confess our sin, he is faithful to forgive us. Yeah, what John is talking about, if you read the epistle, this is why good commentary will help you. You don't need to be a Greek scholar. I'm not a Greek scholar. But when John talks about those who sin do not know God, or those who are righteous, if you actually get a good commentary, they'll tell you that John, obviously because he's inspired by the Spirit, uses particular tenses of verbs, because verbs have tenses. Literally, he says, those who continue sinning, practice sin, or those who continue being righteous, practice righteousness. So he's talking about lifestyles. If your life is characterized by sin, you don't know Christ. But if your life is characterized by righteousness, where you attempt to obey Christ and mortify sin, that means you are of the Spirit. Even though you may sin, confession, there'll be restoration. So the message of John is, if you think that you have no sin, then you make him out to be a liar, because then why did Jesus come to die and cleanse you? What is he cleansing you of? Right?
Yep.
But that doesn't mean you have an excuse to sin.
Yep.
If your life is characterized by sin, where if I look at you and my description of you is a guy who just lives lawlessly, aimlessly, and lives for himself, that is a sign you don't know the Lord. Because the Christian, his life is characterized by a life of righteousness, attempting to be righteous, not sinning against God, doing things that God says, avoiding things that God says you shouldn't do, albeit imperfectly. But that's where confession, repentance, restoration comes in. That's the message of John in a nutshell.
Yeah. So it is definitely useful to know a little bit of Greek so you understand the tenses, like as you said.
Yes. Get a good commentary, but again, not all commentaries are equal. And secondly, if Greek guaranteed perfect theology, then that means everyone in the first century who heard the apostles would have perfect theology, because their mother tongue was Greek. But there were even divisions and heretics in the time of the apostles. So knowing the language does help. However, it's no guarantee of having perfect theology, because one of the leading anti-Trinitarians, his name is Greg Stafford. He used to be a Jehovah's Witness. I actually love this guy, and I really want this guy to come to the fullness of the truth. He knows Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic better than people like James White. I'm not exaggerating. And if he were to discuss with you Greek syntax and grammar, New Testament, he will overwhelm you, and yet he's an anti-Trinitarian. See? So knowing the language is good, but it's no guarantee of having perfect theology. None whatsoever. And because of him, God used him to force me to go deeper into the languages. And I thank God for him, because he made me a stronger Trinitarian.
Yeah.
But when he first came on the scene, he blew me away. He wrote a book called Jehovah Witnesses Defended, an answer to scholars and critics. Came out in the 90s. He blew away the Trinitarian community. The attention of, stinking cat. He got the attention of James White and Rob Bowman, two of the leading Trinitarian apologists, because of the impact of his argumentation. He was on a higher level. But one thing, and I don't want to belabor the point, the Jehovah's Witness Society do not like people to do things on their own and defend the society and produce their own books. So he was going to be disfellowshipped, and he eventually just left them. And he started his own movement. It's called Christian Witnesses of Jah. He's got his own movement. What's my point? The man knows Greek like I'm telling you. He knows Greek better than James White, because everyone thinks James White is a scholar. I'm just using him as an example. Knows Hebrew and Aramaic. He reads the original languages and he translates. And yet he's an anti-Trinitarian. There you go.
I have another question, actually.
Go ahead, brother.